What's the word, y'all? You got clickbaited. Obviously, the answer to that question is no. The series is not over. I've seen 2-0 series leads in the finals go kaboof before. I just needed you to click on the video, okay? Because apparently, not many people are watching this year's finals, so I had to add a little clickbait onto it, okay? I watched it. I got a lot of notes. So the final score ends up being 105-98. One of those grinded out NBA Finals games. These are the ones that I really love, where it's defensive oriented. Game number one was the Jaylen Brown / Kristaps Porzingis game. Where Kristaps Porzingis half, I guess. And in game number two, it was Jrue Holiday, man. 26 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, 1 steal. And that 1 block, 1 steal doesn't even come close to showing you how great of a defensive performance it was from Jrue and Derek White. I wanted to get a tweet off, but I don't know enough about football to get a tweet off. But they mentioned that this might be the best defensive backcourt in the NBA history. And I think that's fair to be in the conversation with Jrue Holiday and Derek White. But I was trying to think of some DBs, like two of the best cornerbacks playing on the same team ever. I couldn't do it because they had that one possession where they tried to get Luka in the backcourt. He decided to pass it up. It was deflected by Jrue Holiday. Luka Doncic get it back. Then he throws it up, and then it's just caught by Derek White, and then they go on and hit a three. Like, that is like great defense. But I got a ton of notes. Game number one, of course, is a fill it out game for both coaches. Okay, what is the opposing team going to do defensively when we do this? And how do we adjust? So on and so forth. And game number one, Jaylen Brown basically saw one-on-one coverage for the majority of the game. So I was curious to see if that changes. And it did. They sporadically sprinkled in a late double for Jaylen Brown. It started off from his very first touch of the game where they sent the double and it led to a turnover. So I was like, oh, his very first touch, that's how they're doing it. Are they going to start guarding Jaylen Brown the way they've been guarding Jason Tatum? The answer is no. Again, it was sporadic, and it makes sense. You can't do that to two different players while they're on the court together. It just shifts the defense so very much. But they threw it in every once in a while. And the one thing about the Boston Celtics, and the reason why they have been my finals pick all season long since the moment they acquired Jrue Holiday, is because they have too many players that make the right decision. Even though this was a close game and they shot 25% from three, I thought that they made the right decision 95% of the time. So even though you're throwing this late double at Jaylen Brown, who's notoriously not known as a playmaker, he ended up in this game with 7 assists, making the right play. Jason Tatum's shot has not fallen. And the last series that we saw him average 30 in that last series versus the Pacers, he had a couple quarters where he completely took over. He took over in overtime. He took over a fourth quarter in another game in that. But every other series, his shot has not fallen. He shot 27% from the field today, 6 for 22. But dare I say it wasn't even a bad game. It was a bad shooting night, but not a bad game. Because they continue to throw two bodies at him unless... Well, it's always very, very late. Once he gets past his initial defender, which in this case was a lot of Luka Doncic in every single action, they start to collapse, preventing him from going up and getting the easy bucket. And I thought he just made the right play after the right play after the right play. At some point, it did get to the point, though, where I'm like, Jason, just go up with the goddamn ball, brother. It seemed like he tried too hard to make the right play. And he had like 3 or 4 layups that just completely fell off the rim. But he had a poor shooting night. But I thought he commanded this game offensively for his team all game long. And that's kind of important in this one. Will the shot ever fall? Hell, I don't know if it ever needs to. If they're up 2-0 on the Dallas Mavericks without him making shots. Because the team is just so well built. It's so well orchestrated. Another thing that I got in my notes. I think this was the case for game number one as well, but I don't think I mentioned in the game number one that the Boston Celtics are completely okay with switching everything except for one thing. If it's Kyrie Irving and Al Horford, they don't want that matchup whatsoever. Where they decided, we are not switching that ever. So Jrue Holiday, you got to fight your ass off. And that's why I want to give all the flowers to Jrue Holiday, because he did that. He fought over those screens all game long. Anytime they tried to put Al Horford in the action where Kyrie Irving is the ball handler, I think they got the switch one time. That's phenomenal defense from Jrue Holiday and sometimes Derek White fighting over. And y'all know one of my biggest pet peeves in basketball defensively is when you just concede on the switch, where you just give the opposing team exactly what they want on the offense side of the ball. Jrue Holiday said none of that. And I thought that was important because in the last series we saw like Nembhard really get the switch on Al Horford and dominate. We saw other players get the switch onto Al Horford and dominate. And what I'm really seeing and what Joe Mazzulla and the coaching staff have really seen is that they feel comfortable with Al Horford switching on to Luka Doncic, because Luka Doncic is not one of those small, fast guards like a Andrew Nembhard or a Kyrie Irving and so on and so forth, or Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell before his injury. But they feel okay with him guarding Luka Doncic because he's got this girth. The Celtics also have decided all series long so far that they will not be guarding Derrick Jones Jr. They will not be guarding Maxi Kleber. They will not be guarding Josh Green unless them boys are sitting in the corner. Above the break, PJ Wasser fits in this too, I guess. Above the break, we could not care less with you. Take a million of those shots. We feel completely comfortable with you taking those shots. And in this one, I thought Maxi Kleber in the first half felt like he was overcompensated from the fact that everybody been talking about him being afraid to shoot the ball. His first shot attempt, it might have been blocked by Kristaps Porzingis, but it ended up being an air ball. He had two other shot attempts. Another one was blocked, and another one was damn near air ball. Derrick Jones Jr. on the right wing shot a wide open three, missed everything. Everything. This is exactly what the Boston Celtics want. They want to make Kyrie Irving work offensively, and hell, it has been rough for Kyrie Irving so far, and they want to put Luka Doncic in every single one of those actions. Luka came into this game. I saw the clip of the tweet that said he looked like he was a mummy because he had all of the tape all around his goddamn body, and they said, we going to capitalize on that. Even last game, too. We want Luka Doncic to be in every single action, and Luka has some fast hands. He's got a few steals with just picking his hands in there. But for the most part, it was turnstile defense for Luka Doncic. And that's not like early in the playoff runs, we saw Luka really sit in that chair where he took a lot of pride in, and you saw individual possessions from that from Luka. But I can understand how exhausted he could have been, and him playing through all of these things where if you look at the injury report, it was 7 different things on it that he couldn't sit in that chair as much as he wanted to. And they took advantage. And boy, did they take advantage. It was a lot of whistles early in this game. It felt like both teams were looking completely undisciplined. That's at least what I got in my notes. You had the one play where Jaylen Brown clamped up Kyrie Irving. I thought that was pretty fun because not many people can get that done on Kyrie Irving. He's that nice of a ball handler. I still don't completely agree with the idea of switching the Kristaps Porzingis touches because it ends up with him having Kyrie Irving or Josh Green or Derrick Jones Jr. on him, and he still has not missed those shots. I am a little bit worried about his health, though. Late in his game, he ended up hobbling, and he got subbed out, and he never touched the court again. I mean, that could be like a swing in this series, honestly, depending on what he's done, because in these 2 games, he's been phenomenal on both sides of the floor, running the break defensively and getting blocks and doing this. There's just been a lot of things, man. Derek Lively, through 2 games, have looked like a 20-year-old rookie. It's finally happening. Where in the last series and the series before that, we talked about him potentially being the 3rd most impactful, 3rd most important player on the team. And through the first 2 games, he looks exactly his age. Where I think this is, I'm going out on a limb here because obviously I'm not completely tuned into the X's and O's, where it feels like Mazzulla and company are trying to make Derek Lively think as much as possible. And the last series, don't get me wrong, he had to think, but he didn't have to think as much as this because this Celtics team has him out on the perimeter / not just sitting at the paint. So there was one play where Jason Tatum got 2 feet into the basket. And obviously, when Jason Tatum gets 2 feet into the basket, you know what they're going to do? They're going to send 2s and sometimes 3. And it left Derek Lively and on the weak side having to make a decision between guarding the wing and guarding the corner. And I forget who it was, but whoever it was in the corner, it might have been Drew Holiday. It probably was Drew Holiday. Cut back door, easy pass from Jason Tatum, making Derek Lively think. And I think he got subbed off right after that. Now, if there's any silver lining to all of this, it did feel like in that second half, that the Mavericks started to take advantage of the fact that the Boston Celtics played with Tatum / Brown guarding the big, right? So Gafford got a couple easy buckets with him getting post touches or him getting an offensive rebound and going straight up. That's kind of a good thing. But I just don't know. Because at this point in time, it's 5 games left in the series. They got to win 4 out of the next 5 games. And if you don't win this one, a game where the 3-point shooting is a 10 for 39 from the Boston Celtics, you don't win this one, where again Tatum struggles from the field and so on and so forth. If you don't win this one, I just don't know how you can string together four wins in 5 games. Is it possible? Absolutely. But you're completely fighting uphill, man. You're completely fighting uphill. Kyrie Irving has not been the offensive threat that you need him to be. Again, I think that some of the shots that he's missing are just shots that he made previously in previous series. But some of those defensive possessions from the Celtics are just making it so very tough on him. And I don't even know what else I can really say other than the fact that it felt like a game where these boys missed so many free throws. I'm looking at they missed 8 free throws, 66% from the free throw line. It's not ideal, but I guess it's not as bad as it felt in real time. I mean, it's below average. If you average that for a season, you're the worst free throw shooting team in basketball. But it felt like a lot worse than that. Again, I think that Tatum had a great game controlling this one, where he played 45 minutes, 12 assists. He only ended up with 3 turnovers. I think in last game he ended up with a lot more. But you want that shot to eventually fall, and if it ever does, I'm saying if, because at this point I don't even know if it's ever gonna fall. If it ever does fall, I mean, the Mavericks are probably in a ton of trouble. I got so many more things in my notes, but I also got to film a podcast right now. So tune into the Kenny Beecham podcast if you want more notes on game number 2 of the NBA Finals. Super fun game. Was super fine. Would it be a grinded out, so on and so forth. And I'll see y'all after game 3, I guess.